Everything that's out there on offer design is outdated. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to Forrest, who's used our webinar system to add $550,000 a year to his business and break down everything that's at the leading edge of designing winning offers today and beyond that use timeless backed psychological principles to convert strangers into buyers, and everything that you need to do to set the foundation to have a winning offer in the market today and beyond. So let's dive into the video. So Forrest, what did you see in the market that tells you a business owner has a weak offer? Like, when do they know that, or what shows up for them exactly?
There's a couple of things, but there's one thing I see over and over. Founders grow a business often by sheer force of will, their dynamic personality, referrals, networking, things like that. And the thing that really tips me off, or them off, that there's something off with their offer is when they try to market beyond themselves. When they try to do SEO, they try to hire an agency, their offer is undifferentiated. And so when they go out to the marketplace and their personality can't carry the day, all of a sudden things don't work so well. The other ways it shows up are in sales process, constantly being compared to 2 or 3 other vendors and losing to the lowest cost one because there's not enough differentiation in their offer. Getting ghosted on sales calls, having other people try to sell the offer beyond the founder and it not really working very well. So these are some of the things that tip me off that there may be an offer problem. And the interesting thing is a company may be doing $2 or $3 million a year, and so they might think our offer's fine. But again, that could be hidden behind the founder's personality and hustle, and then when they try to get beyond it, it's like, oh, they get exposed. So those are some of the things that I see.
And when did that first show up for you? Like, specifically speak to offer differentiation.
The first time it hit me was back in 2013. So I was a marketing manager and I had turned myself into a conversion rate optimization expert, persuasive copywriter. And for 7 or 8 years, I never failed to double, triple, or more a client's leads and sales from their websites using conversion rate optimization. This one client came, they sold hosting services, all different types of hosting services. And they had tried every tactic, and this is what I see. People throw money at all sorts of tactics and agencies, SEO, social, ads, whatever it might be, and it doesn't work out. He had done that, and he finally stumbled upon conversion rate optimization as the one tactic he hadn't tried. And to that point, I thought conversion rate optimization was the be-all end-all because I'd never failed to use it until he showed up. So we started running, tests and using all my conversion tricks and tactics. And for the first time, it didn't work. And I couldn't figure out why.
What were some of those symptoms that showed up as it not working?
Just, sending traffic to the site and it not converting, and him having, here's the key. He had another type of hosting service that we were not working on. And that one was selling like hotcakes with zero marketing, no tactics. And so I asked him, what's going on over there? He said, we just get a ton of referrals. People it was Cold Fusion hosting, Cold Fusion apps on the web. And I was like, well, how did you get known in that community where they're all referring you? And I thought if I could just figure out what he did over there, I could apply it over here. And he said, I have no idea. It just happened. And so he had one service that no matter what marketing he tried, didn't sell, and another one that sold like hotcakes with no marketing. And when I dug in, what I realized is that the Cold Fusion hosting, by accident, was totally differentiated. And the other hosting service we were working on was not only not differentiated from all the other competitors, it was worse than Amazon's offering. And that's when I first realized that you can't fix marketing if your offer is broken or undifferentiated.
It's if they're losing on price, they have great leads that ghost after sales calls, or anytime that they've tried marketing beyond themselves or their network, it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's the big one. But the other ones in the sales process are true as well.
Okay. And what's the biggest misconception that founders have about why their offer isn't converting?
Well, they often don't think it's the offer. They think it's the marketing. So what happens is they make this false assumption that if the marketing didn't work, or I'm getting ghosted or any of those other things, it must be a problem with the marketing. like we're doing the wrong tactic, or we have the wrong agency, or the salespeople stink. It's a problem with everything else but the offer, right? And that's the false assumption they make. And so they don't even really look at their offer a lot of the time. They just try to jump to the next tactic or the next salesperson.
And what does that result to, like, in their business? Like, what actually happens?
The short answer is nothing but wasted money and time. They often do that. They'll try another tactic, another agency, hire another salesperson, and it's 6, 12, or 18 months down the road, and they still don't have the results. So that keeps happening until they just give up, thinking, I still want to grow, but I just don't know what's going on here. I don't know what, these people were all experts. The salesperson sounded great on the interview. I don't get it. And so they either keep in that, what I call the tactical conundrum, just trying the next tactic, or they give up.
What is the shift that sounds great and all. I've tried a number of different tactics. I've tried XYZ. I've tried everything under the sun. What is the correct way to think about a differentiated offer?
What I'll say first is that you should be thinking about your offer a differentiation first before tactics. So there's a sequencing that is important here. What I always say is optimize your offer before your outreach. So if all these things are resonating with you, go back to the beginning. Start with your offer. When it comes to differentiation, another mistake I think people say is, when I say I do offer design, a lot of times people will say, do you mean like positioning or messaging? And I don't mean positioning or messaging. Positioning or messaging comes after you design what I call a structurally differentiated offer. The difference between messaging and structural differentiation is, if you do messaging first, it's kind of like if you have a 2-bedroom house and you want it to be 4 bedrooms and you go outside and you paint it and you make it look better. Still structurally only has 2 bedrooms. So what structural differentiation does, which should be your starting point, is how do we create something that's truly actually different? Then we'll figure out how to message it.
Makes sense. But the structure of, like, okay, well, I still want a 4-bedroom house. How do I get there? What is that? What are the questions that you ask to bring that out of a business owner or business?
Yeah, so we have a framework that, for people that know their market at least a little bit, really helps them get there pretty quickly. It starts with what we call your population in pain. That's a specific group of people with a specific problem. Almost everybody I work with offers multiple services to multiple audiences at different price points. But when you do offer design, you want it really focused on a specific group with a specific problem, so the offer really solves that problem. The second piece is understanding that market and how they...
if you've tried a bunch of tactics and nothing's working, or it feels like you're throwing mud at the wall and it sticks, in my experience, nailing the population in pain is what will lead the message to actually convert, right? And doing that one thing well, I've seen 3 to 4x the performance of any given marketing campaign. What's an example client of the questions that you asked in order to surface that?
Designed typically for companies that have been in business for a little while and have sold some things. So when I start, I ask, looking back, who are your ideal clients? Where did you have the most success? Who do you like working with? So that's kind of a starting point. If they don't have that sort of experience, we can certainly say, let's pick a group or 2 that you think would be good and go do customer listening interviews and start to hone that in. But we start by asking questions like about past clients. And then sometimes it's funny that people struggle, because when I define what a population is as a specific group of people, sometimes people go on these long-winded rants. So a population could just be simply attorneys, right? That's a population. And what we're looking for and what we cross-check when we're picking the population are things like, can I find these people easily on LinkedIn? Do they congregate at associations or read particular publications or visit particular websites? Then I know I have a specific group of people, which we call a population. So it could be attorneys that don't generate enough leads. Or it could be business attorneys. So now we've got a subset, right? Then we get even more refined, that don't get enough new clients. Or it could be business attorneys that have high employee turnover, right? So there's different types of pains and problems. So we have to match a group with a problem, not multiple groups, multiple problems. And we just do that through asking questions and thinking back through their previous experience.
What was an example of a great definition of pain?
Great definition of pain starts with the voice of the customer. So I often will ask people when we're going through these exercises, tell me how they describe their problems. Not as you as the expert. I don't want your expert jargon. I use a doctor analogy quite often. When the patient shows up in pain at your office and you say, what's going on? What do they say? Not what do you say as the founder or the expert. How do they articulate their pain? And so we really want to make sure we capture the voice of the customer, because when you eventually get to marketing, leading with those symptoms in their voice gets them to say, hey, that sounds like me. That's the starting point for marketing that really resonates with people.
Okay, great. What's the second 80-20 of having a structurally differentiated offer?
Yeah, so what we'll often do is once we nail the population in pain, which is usually a simple statement like business attorneys not getting enough clients, then we want to go a level deeper, and we call, then we get into the ICP or ideal client profile. So what's the subset? Then we get into all that detail about, voice of the customer, where we can find them, what are the buying triggers. So we really need to understand when and where these people are ready for a potential offer and how they think about it and articulate it. So that's kind of the next thing that we go through.
A buying trigger is a specific situation that leads somebody to buy a solution or product that solves the problem that triggered it. So for example, if you drop the knife and now you have a hole in your shoe, now you need to buy a new shoe. Or if you hit a speed bump too hard and now your bumper's messed up, well, now you need to go to the mechanic to get a new bumper. These are all examples of buying triggers. And in copywriting, it's very important in any marketing campaign to speak to that specific situation directly, because then what happens is that your audience will sit there and think, oh my God, they know exactly my pain, they know exactly my situation. I'm going to go with these guys. So let's dive back. 80-20, what's like the most important ICP questions to understand?
Yeah, the first part, which is not very sexy, is just what are their titles and roles? How are we going to find these people? I think the most important parts are that voice of the customer. So I call it their pain story. And again, when they show up at the doctor's office, when they show up at your office or on a call and you say, hey, what brings you in today? Where does it hurt? How they articulate, that's really nailing that is absolutely critical to the ICP. The other two that are important are buying triggers. So understanding what's going on in this person's life that they're now finally looking for a solution, right? Because sometimes people are not even problem aware or solution aware. So they might think of something as a hangnail, like it's annoying, but I can just not deal with it. So really understanding at what point do they have a problem with their employees? Does their boss say we need to go fix it? Like, what are the triggers that typically make them ready? And then the last piece is readiness.
Before you go on to the last piece, let's double click on the buying triggers. So what are the what happens if business owners ignore that?
So
how does that typically show up in their marketing?
Right. So it typically shows up in either they keep marketing and it keeps not working, so they're just wasting more money, and they've tried another thing, and they're just not getting the results. They start to feel burnt out and they feel like, I guess nothing works other than me hustling around until they get annoyed enough or pissed off enough to be like, I got to figure this out. I want to grow and nothing I seem to do works. And so when they get to that frustration point, that's when they tend to be ready to, figure out something new.
Okay. And then you were about to dive into the other pieces.
Yeah, so buying triggers, and those buying triggers are going to be different. It could be, for every industry, could be budget cycles. It could be, new entrance into the market. All these different things could be buying triggers. I just gave you one.
Situations that happen in their life that now immediately start affecting them personally or their business.
Yeah, either their boss says something, they find out something from the industry, they've tried so many things and they've wasted so much money that they can't take it anymore. Or again, a competitor could come in, a low-cost competitor, like, oh crap, I need to do something about this. Or they have a lot of employee turnover. So there's all these these different negative things that might impact their business or mandates from above that make someone, triggered to be like, I can't just leave this hangnail. It's too big. I got to do something about it.
It could also be like side-eye comments at a conference.
Yeah,
or
that's actually another one. They went to a
situation.
conference. Sorry to interrupt. They went to a conference and learned something they hadn't heard before, and they're like, "Ooh!" And that could be the trigger, right? That's something I haven't tried. So yeah,
sitting down and defining those. Really sitting down and defining
absolutely,
those situations.
yeah, because that's going to inform the offer, but also the marketing tactics and timing and everything. So you've got the voice of the customer, the pain story, the buying triggers, and the last one I was going to mention is the readiness indicators. What are things that are going on in their world that indicate they're ready to pull the trigger now, which makes them, of course, a better prospect for the marketing and sales process. And those could be, again, varied industry to industry, but it could be, I've got a deadline. I've got, a client said if I don't fix this, they're going to fire us. So any of these things that drive more the urgency and make them more ready to I can't wait any longer. I'm losing money over here. Those kinds of things.
Yeah. Great. And so let's talk about so that's the customer side of things, but let's talk about the offer and how does it bridge that gap? Like what are the types of questions that you ask in order to structure an offer in order to be different? Like what are as you're going through your process?
Yeah. So there's a few key parts that kind of all go together. It's almost like the engine of the offer, if you will. So the first thing is the state A to state B transformation. We've outlined this person that has pain that we want to solve with our offer, with our service. What is their current state? So describing that again as best you can in their language. Right now, I've got high employee turnover. My boss is yelling at me. Whatever that state A is, what their current state is, and then outlining what their state B is, their desired or dream outcome, and how they would articulate it, not how you would articulate it again. So really getting those solidified, and then starting to understand that your service must deliver the state B transformation, state A to state B, in a way that's different than other options out there. And we'll talk about that in a second.
But Forrest, I'm an M&A advisor. I can't share case studies. I'm a lawyer. I'm bound by client confidentiality. I can't share client results.
Yeah, you don't need to tell me what the average person is struggling with in your population and pain. And you don't have to share anything specific about any particular client or deal or anything like that to tell me what a person that has a backache, they want to have their back not feel well. Anybody that has a backache wants their back to not hurt. So if anybody has we have high employee turnover, we want to reduce that so that people are sticking around on average. It doesn't have to be specific to any particular client or case study at that point.
And then what does a great state B look like on that? Because you touched on a little bit of it, but if you could flesh that out.
Yeah, so the state B has to be emotionally compelling, leveraging the language of the customer. So a lot of times I ask my clients that are going through the offer design process, what do you think the state B is? And it sounds like a sales pitch of what they think people would want. So you really want to ground it in the language and the emotions of the person. Like, what's going to make them feel relief? What do they really, truly want? And so that starts to sound like things like I just did one last week, and someone wants to be able to just hit their deadlines with less stress, to have their boss be happy with their work, to finally start producing the results they're supposed to be producing that in state A they're not producing. So things like that.
So let's double click on that, because let's say as everybody has heard something similar to that of like state A to state B. So what are other offer trainings out there missing that make a great competitive offer in 2026?
Yeah, so we haven't even gotten into how we do the differentiation, right? So there's a pathway, and this is where our offer design, I believe, is differentiated. So there's got to be some pathway, some steps or things people have to do to get to state B, right? Like if you want to build a home, if that's your state B is your dream home, well, you got to lay a foundation, you got to put up the walls, you got to put on a roof. Like there's just things you have to do to get to state B. The same thing in any service offering for businesses. There's things the client or you as the service provider need to do or provide to get them from state A to state B. And here's where the differentiation piece comes in. So typically in every industry, there's one or more what we call market cruxes or false assumptions about how to best get from state A to state B, right? So I'll give you an example. For my own business, we work with a lot of founders that have tried marketing and it didn't work. And the false assumption they make is that it's a problem with the marketing, that they just need to do more, different, or better marketing, right? And that's often false, because often the problem is not the marketing, it was actually executed fine, but they had an undifferentiated offer. So we say we can help you get from state A to state B, not by fixing your marketing or doing more or better marketing. Let's first take a step back, create a differentiated offer to get you there faster, better, more profitably. So there's finding that crux or that false assumption in the market, the way they typically solve it, and then building differentiation around that. And that's the last piece we call the differentiation device. That is the mechanism or approach you use that's different than what everybody else is doing to solve the market crux, the false assumption. And so to answer your question from before, I don't think a lot of offer design programs or offer type programs do that. They don't have that. That's what we call structural differentiation. And they tend to just rely on messaging. They tend to rely on things like guarantees and bonuses and all those things, which can be very powerful. But that leads me to another distinction within our offer design framework. What type of offer do you need to create? And we divide that into transactional offers and decision-driven offers. And so some of the other programs
Can you define both of those before you
Yeah, absolutely.
Trust?
So a transaction, we have a little process. We have about 8 yes or no questions that we go through with people. Like, is it typically one buyer that decides really quickly, or is this more of an enterprise level situation where there's multiple departments and procurement making the decision? So there's questions like that. It's typically binary, A or B, and that lands us out on whether it's more of a transactional offer or a decision-driven offer. And the definition is transactional offers tend to be lower cost, easier decisions, things that lend themselves to buy Friday and save 20%, or here's this crazy guarantee. If you're selling a $1 million software solution to a big enterprise, it's going to take months to make the decision and have 5 different decision makers from different departments. You don't hit them with a buy Friday type of deal, right? So transactional offers tend to be easier to sell, quicker, and lend themselves more to that. And the enterprise level or decision-driven type offers, which tend to be higher price, longer cycles, more reputational risk than just financial loss on the transactional side. So those are some of the things that distinguish them. The interesting part is kind of a side note is sometimes clients clearly have a decision-driven offer, but for one reason or another, it makes sense to create a initial transactional offer to get them into the fold and then sell them a bigger offer later. We don't always do that, but sometimes it works out that way.
Okay. And so there's a framework of the specific word that you used for the offer design dimension of it, like the differentiation process.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory on that? What was the
Yeah, so it's kind of like again, it's state A to state B. How are we going to get them away? That's not just different, but also better. It can't just be different for the sake of being different, right? We do it this other way because you'll get to state B faster, or you'll get a better, bigger state B. So there should be some additional benefit other than the fact that it's just different, right? And then the two pieces, I think of it like a battery plus, the positive and negative, and they have to go together to create the energy. And that is the market crux, the false assumption, and the differentiation device, which is the unique way we solve the market crux that nobody else is doing. And when you put those together, that's where you get the synergy and the energy. Then you can go do messaging and all the rest of the stuff.
Okay, great. So some examples that come to mind. I know we worked with Austin and Dimitri from Escape Room Launchpad and going through this process. We were running meta campaigns before, and the problem that we had was that the price point was too low for everything that we were selling. And I mean, you can speak to everything that they were doing for the price.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as part of the offer design process that we go through and that we went through with them, I like to understand, well, what's your offering now, right? And how do you deliver the state B now as best you can? And with them, when they told me what they were offering, so they're offering digital marketing services, and they said, oh, people get this and influencer marketing and paid ad management and SEO, like all this stuff that to me in my past would have been $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 per thing. They're selling like 8 things for $1,500 a month, and I thought to myself, this is insane. It almost undermines your credibility. Who could do all this stuff for that little of a price, kind of a thing? And so we had to start to dig in and really start to not just differentiate and package things up, but also figure out the pricing, because that's another, there's a lot of elements to differentiation that go beyond the market crux and the differentiation device. You could differentiate.
That was the word. Could you define the differentiation device again, just to double click on that? Because I want to make sure that the audience gets that.
Yeah, so that's the mechanism that you use, and I'll use myself and then I'll use another silly example, but like, if your marketing's not working, my differentiation device, the way I help you make marketing work, is not to fix your marketing, it's to fix what makes marketing work in the first place, and that's offer design. So my differentiation device, my mechanism for solving marketing and growth problems is offer design. If someone was doing, let's say, weight loss programs, right? Their differentiation device, I know this isn't really different off the top of my head, but might be, we focus on intermittent fasting. That's the mechanism at the core. So there's other differentiation built around that. But it's just the way, and hopefully a different way, that you actually build the house or deliver that state B.
Okay. And so tying this back to Austin and Dimitri, the fact that they owned entertainment venues and had a marketing agency that was supporting them was their differentiation device. Like, this is what it is, that it's for entertainment venues, for entertainment venue owners, by entertainment venue owners.
That was their core differentiation device. They actually had a couple. They also had their influencer marketing, which was kind of unique in their industry, to get influencers to come into the local facilities, the escape rooms, etc. So that was another. You can have more than one differentiation device, but you generally want to have one core one. So yeah, their unique experience, not only being successful marketing family fun centers, but also owning them, was part of their differentiation device for sure.
And as a result of that, I mean, they're spending $5,000-$6,000 a month on Meta, and we doubled their upfront 2.5x their upfront cash collect on retainers to now they're already quite successful, doing about $75,000-$80,000 a month in revenue, and we've been able to add now $14,000 per month roughly on $14,000 per month roughly in just net new retainers, like first month paid retainers. And we've also been able to reduce the cost per lead and increase the quality of those leads. So we were getting leads at about $60-$70. I mean, there was everything. The offer, and what we had done is we'd taken the differentiation devices, the state A to state B, and speaking to the market crux, and then we use that to directly inform the copywriting, which we then took to Meta to then strengthen the creatives that as a result had reduced the cost per lead from $60-$70 to $20-$30 on average.
Awesome. Yep. Yeah, I've got a story with another client, Steve, who sells financial services like bookkeeping, accounting, fractional CFO type services. And we did some work with him and created a differentiation device and messaging. His backstory was he spent, and I'm not making this up, $100,000 on various marketing tactics in different agencies over a few years, got 3 calls from $100,000 and no new clients. Then when we got a hold of him, we took what he was doing and created the problem. The market crux is that when your bookkeepers or your accountants can't answer strategic financial questions as you grow, the false assumption is I need a better bookkeeper or a better accountant. But that's actually not true. What you need, in his case, as he educated me, is a more strategic financial system, and you need not 2 minds, you need 4 financial minds. You need a better bookkeeper and a better accountant that are more strategic, but also you need a controller who's the type of person that knows how to build this new system that you don't currently have, and a fractional CFO that can provide that strategic advice. So his mechanism was a strategic financial system that we call the 4 financial minds frameworks. And then we have a proprietary sort of differentiator layered on top of it. That's when you get to the messaging and the naming. And so he went from spending $100,000 and getting 0 new business to then leveraging webinars. And he finally started closing cold traffic for the first time in the history of his company. 25 years. Never was able to do it before.
Amazing.
So yeah, when you nail the right offer, it can really change your world.
I mean, a great offer is worthless, to your point, unless people can actually see it. I mean, that's the other half. And you need to have a system that can get you in front of 1,000 eyeballs each day. In order to fully capitalize on having a great offer. So and this is, in your opinion, what does great offer design ultimately do for, or having a great offer ultimately do for the business owners? Like outside the transformations, like we've already listed them, but focus on what actually happens. And then as a result.
So what I like to say is a differentiated, well-designed offer is a force multiplier. It literally makes everything else more effective, easier, and more profitable down the line, which is why I also say the sequence is part of the solution. So offer design for structural differentiation, then messaging for that offer, not your business as a whole, then activation in terms of assets. Do you need a new pitch deck? Do you need to update your website? Then we get into the tactical marketing, webinars, etc. And then sales process, of course. And it makes all of those things easier and better because you now have something differentiated and properly messaged to communicate at each stage of that growth process. So it just makes everything work better in terms of more leads, more sales, higher price points, less ghosting. All the problems that we talked about, the symptoms we talked about at the end, is marketing can finally work without the founder running around town. Sales can actually close at the premium prices you want because it's just not comparable. Your offer is not comparable to everybody else in your marketplace. Like Steve's strategic financial system and 4 financial minds framework cannot be compared to just another bookkeeper. They're just not the same thing. So it just makes everything more, easier and more effective down the line.
Great. Wow, great. Well, thanks, Forrest, for jumping on, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now you know a lot of the theory of offer design, but what's next? How do you apply it? Well, this is why we're offering a gift. If you want to break down exactly what your population in pain is, what does your market believe is the problem versus what's actually the problem, and map out your state A to state B transformation, and do that step by step in a way that's proven, that's helped clients like Austin and Dimitri 2.5x their upfront cash collected from their meta ad campaigns. Or if you're running any other marketing campaigns and you want to generate a higher return, then this can be a force multiplier for you. So go ahead and click the link, find a time, schedule a time for your offer blueprint call. In that, we're going to walk you through everything that I just listed. We'll look at what's not working in your marketing today, why your previous attempts haven't gone as well as you'd like them to, and then map out everything that I just said. Who is your population in pain? What do they believe versus what they actually, and how to reframe what they believe with transforming and documenting your state A to state B transformation. So go ahead, click the link, find a time, select a time, and I'll see you there.